Patricio X is on the line with us here today, and he's literally just woke up about 2 minutes ago because you're on the west coast of America, right? Where it's the crack of dawn, basically.
I am here, but I'm happy to be here with you, and thanks for having me. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, your latest book is called Reggaetón Cruise, and the basic plot of it is that after getting nearly crushed on his way to Magic America, the migrant drifter most likely to fail posts a song that blows up on YouTube. So, without spoiling anything really, just take it from there.
Yeah, so it was based on a real character
Oh.
that I just changed the proportions of the matter, right?
Mm.
So there was this guy who posted a video on YouTube. He's from my country. I'm originally from Ecuador,
Yeah.
and he posted a video on YouTube many years ago, and he became quite a sensation. Quite one of the first real Latin American viral video guys, right? So he was a rural guy. He came from the countryside, and suddenly he found himself sort of liked and also hated. And you know how viral fame goes.
Yeah.
It took off from there, And anyway, I just paid attention to that particular thing because it caught my eye.
Yeah.
And years later, I decided to fictionalize the whole event and really give it a different meaning and all of that. But the seed of that was real.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess there's a whole theme of immigrants in it as well, isn't there? So is that a separate thing and this person didn't actually have an immigration background, or did they still?
The real guy didn't, but the fictional guy did.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just kind of incorporated him into my own reality of, I live in LA. We're a very multicultural society.
Yeah.
And I wanted to portray that, different lives intersecting and all of that. So I decided to I'm going to make them migrate from the Andes, from the countryside of Ecuador up to Latin America, through Mexico, through the United States. And what's usually perceived to be a very dramatic thing. And it is dramatic usually, right? For such a story. But he's got this other story that's dramatic, but on a different way, dramatic through the world of the internet, viral fame, YouTube, So, yes.
And the fact that you're originally from Ecuador and now live in LA, I guess you are an immigrant yourself. Maybe you didn't do it in the exact same way, I don't know. But can you relate to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't do it that way, but, we do it different ways. And in the book, you have people doing it different ways and people traveling back and forth. There's the Furukawa sisters who are from Japan. They're sort of international students. And so they come and go from Japan, and they're of a different sort of a different kind of migrant. Then you have a war refugee, Mamadou Anderson. You have a tennis player, who's so I guess I'm portraying the current world where everybody's on the move. It seems like even the locals are on the move,
Yeah.
So there's no locals anymore. If you talk to people in California, it's who's from where? Even most Americans who are Californians are from the Midwest of the United States, seems like. So,
Yeah, and they all have names from the countries that they're from in the book as well. A lot of names in the book I'd never really heard of before, to be honest, because they're not the typical names we'd get in English-speaking places, I suppose.
Yeah. The names are something that I had a lot of fun with, for some reason, I felt like the guy from Liberia should be named Mamadou Anderson. So in order to say, I take that name, right, I had to do a little research as to the country of Liberia. What they have a lot of American and English influence. So a lot of their names are, either their last names are Anderson, Peterson, whatever, right? So Johnson. And so, I took that and I had a lot of fun with the first name, Mamadou. And then, Delphine, which means dolphin. And then, other names like that, the name, the Furukawa sisters. Then there's Italian immigrants. And I went a little bit into each culture and I don't know if you saw it, but I peppered the the chapters with like foreign language phrases, which was, I mean, I love languages, to tell you the truth. That's part of it.
Yeah. There's a bit in the book where, what was it, Delphine?
Yeah.
Somebody said something about a dolphin, but you can't actually swim.
Right. Yeah. That's great. I love that you caught that fact.
Yeah.
I know these things is like, where do they come from, right? You're writing them, and then suddenly there's like this like kind of witty remark, that one of the characters makes. You're like, okay, well, it came from somewhere, right? So like, I'm not gonna dig into where that comes from. It's just kind of like the subconscious making. But okay, so there's a dolphin, right? He's crossing one of the rivers in Central America to come to Mexico, and then eventually to the United States, right?
Yeah.
So he's crossing this river, Lempa River in Honduras, I think it is, right? So he's doing so undocumented,
Yeah.
So it's a dangerous situation to the backwaters of Honduras and whatnot, which is it's a tough place, right? So he's on this boat, and I think that's where he is, and then the waters are kind of rough, and people see that he's nervous. He's grabbing onto the boat, and one of the guys, the what we call coyotes in the kind of street language, which is a guy who helps others cross borders illegally. Anyway, he says, what's going on with you? You look nervous, right? And then I don't know if he says so, but he says, I can't swim or something, right? Yeah. He's never been on the water, and so they laugh. It's like, oh, there's a dolphin who can't swim. He's a joke for many people. And later, and even when he makes the viral video and becomes famous, people take him as a joke because they think, oh, is he serious? And kind of like he's trying to be a suave, cool dude, but he's really more like countryside, shy. And anyway, people really like that, but others make fun of him. And I think that's a really central part of his character.
Yeah, definitely. And while we're on the subject of animals, is your dog all right? Because he sounds noisy.
You know what? It's not my dog. It's my neighbor's dog. And every time I sit here, if I speak a little louder, up to a certain decibel, he starts like talking back to me or barking. So he's all right, and it's like yell out something, but it's the neighbor's dog. Actually, I didn't know you could hear it.
Yeah, that's quite incredible. Must be a very loud dog if we can still hear it from here when it's the neighbors.
He wants to partake.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
maybe let me close the window here.
Well, the book is an interesting structure because I don't know how to describe this really, but I guess it's like 3 different acts, and then it's got chapters in those acts rather than, I guess normally it would just be different chapters.
Right. And the thing behind that is that there are so many lives that intersect, right? Like, so you have all these characters. I haven't talked about Arjun Parn, who is, he's one of the other characters who's a gamer, right? And how do you have all these different lives intersect in a way that is coherent, but also that portrays each life individually, right? So there's the gamer, Arjun Parn, who is in Estonia, right? And part of his life is there, and he's gaming, and he's coming up in the gaming world. There's the Ecuadorian immigrant from the Andes doing viral fame and getting to the United States. There's the Furukawa sisters, there's Mamadou Anderson, and all these other characters, right? So like what I do is I portray each character individually, but eventually they have to move forward towards a point where they meet, right? And that happens, I want to say, like 3/4 to the book. Through the book, they meet, perhaps not physically, though some of them meet physically, but also their lives intersect in a way that after that they go in different directions, it just changes completely.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool idea. It's sort of like Pulp Fiction, isn't it? And Hoodwinked, which is really obscure film, but where everything connects in some way. Everything
connects, and I think that's the theme of the book, that nowadays we're all connected, right? And sometimes dramatically, right? And sometimes not dramatically, but in this case it's pretty dramatic, right? And their lives change, and I think because of that kind of idea, the book had to be told in this manner that it's, I wouldn't say short stories because they're not short stories, but they are connected in a way that if I tried to do it again, I probably wouldn't be able to. So, it's just, but it worked out it worked out by itself, I want to say.
And you've written books in English and Spanish over the years, haven't you? So why did you decide to write this one in English, particularly when all the names and stuff aren't really English?
Because English is the global language. The theme of the book is essentially, well, not essentially globalization, but one of the themes of the books is globalization, right?
Yeah.
And I thought it would be easier. And on top of that, when foreigners communicate with each other, they communicate in English, most likely, unless they're in Latin America, right? But English is the most widely spoken language in the world, and I wanted to, give it a shot.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. And the thing about the book is, it isn't afraid to portray racism and the reality of what different people might say to each other if they come across each other.
Right. That's something that I didn't shy away from, but also I didn't want to do it in a cliche way. Like, to me, a cliche way of doing it would be like, I'm just gonna outright, how do I say this? I'm just gonna outright make it taboo, right?
Yeah.
And it's not taboo, right? I mean, certain racist terms are terrible to the ear sometimes, well, always, but it's not that people don't say them, particularly people in like the situations. There's a guy who finds himself in like a drug house somewhere at some point where he has to like murder somebody, so he hears all these things, right? And well, then my characters talk like the way people the streets do, I guess.
Yeah. So how long did this book take you to write then? Because I take it you might have done it during the pandemic, given that that's been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think that both pandemic was really oddly helpful to me as a writer in that regard, because it's like I had nowhere else to go and nothing else to do. So, during the worst of it here in California, quarantine and all of that. So I had this idea, and it took me about 8 months of like intense work to just get it out there. And then, I shaped it and I worked it into something better. I didn't want it to be a book that was extremely sort of, I wanted it to be a little rough around the edges. And that was the feel that I wanted to give it. So, it wasn't like I edited a lot. I've had other books where I spent like literally years editing. Wow. This book was like 8 months, edited for like 3-4 months, and then talked to the editor, and he read it. He thought it was ready, and we put it out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I take it when you first started working on it at the start of the pandemic, 8 months, then that's about a year ago that the first draft was finished.
Right. I was sitting literally right where I am, hearing that dog bark, like, what do you think about it? But he'd bark back, right? So, then it just, it happened. The idea in terms of publishing was, are we going to hold it back until it's over, the whole situation? Or are we going to just push forward? And we decided, this is a novel that just needs to be out there now. And it's got its dramatic themes, but it's also bright. And I want to say, I don't know what you think, but I think it's funny in certain parts. Right. Yeah. So I thought it was good for people to get it now, and I think we made the right decision.
Yeah. And how have sales been? Because I would have thought sales would have gone up during the pandemic because people would have had more time to read, but apparently that hasn't actually happened for some reason.
Sales have been okay in terms of the physical book. Yeah. So when I see you holding the physical book, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Somebody who actually reads books that are, there. Yeah. But sales in terms of the Kindle have, I just advertised Kindle. The ebook have done better than the physical book, and we foresee that we're going to do an audiobook. We have a reader already. Ooh. We foresee that the audiobook is going to do even better, because that's what a lot of people are going to in terms of nowadays.
Yeah, and I guess ebooks tend to be cheaper as well, which is partly the reason.
Much cheaper and easier to get abroad, which ties in with the theme of like everything being sort of disembedded and just kind of up in the cloud, traveling, crossing borders, and all books do the same thing. Yeah. So we made it affordable. Yeah. And
did you use a publisher to get this out there, or did you just self-publish like a lot of people are doing these days?
Yeah, I used a small publisher, a local Hollywood publisher named Grady Miller, who has this book house called Grady Miller Books. and he was kind enough to publish my book. I published previous books with him, and I'm very glad I did, because writing is hard enough in itself.
Yeah.
And then promoting is another thing. Getting everything right in terms of the cover, contacting people. So just having, even if it's a small party to help you, I can't recommend that enough. Though, of course, if you get a self-publish, I mean, that's, more power to you.
Yeah.
Great writers have done it too.
Yeah, of course. And who designed the cover for you, by the way?
Yeah, the cover was designed by an Italian designer, a woman whose name I'm going to, of course, forget. And then I remember it, like in 5 minutes after I don't need it anymore. But she, interestingly enough, she's kind of like a character out of the book. She's Italian, living in London right now. So she's in England, and we contacted her through the internet, and we liked her work, and we decided that it was going to be like kind of cartoonish, or you see the cover and it's like bright, but yeah, she did it. I really liked her work.
Yeah, it's a great cover, and it just introduces you to some of the characters right away, I suppose, from the top up, which is interesting.
Yeah. They're all there. I can just picture them. Yeah. Mamadou's there. Then Delphine is there with his hat, right? And he's very flashy. Let's just say that. Yeah. And then Sandrita is there too. So though people have told me, I thought this was some other character. So, but to me, there's a lady with red lipstick there, and that's Sandrita, who's a Central American migrant who doesn't make it to the United States, and is very, very loud and has an interesting story.
Yeah, you just get a right feeling about all these characters' personality just by looking at them. And the guy in the top left looks a little bit like you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so interesting that you would say. Yeah. That's the tennis guy. I mean, in my mind, I do play tennis a lot, competitively, amateur, but I do take it seriously. Like all these amateur players, like that take it more seriously than the professionals. We have coaches and whatnot. So I just had like a 3 hour and a half match a couple of days ago. I couldn't walk for like 2 days. But anyway, so yeah, one of the it's not like I put all my life in there, but like most writers' biography is there, and sometimes you have fun with names of people and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And tennis is becoming popular in this country again because our Emma Raducanu won the US Open, so everyone's liking the game again, I think.
And also it's a naturally like socially distanced game.
Oh yeah, of course. That's
so
true.
That like become so popular here, and I've liked it for years, and I worked it into the book in a way, with one of the guys who's a retired former professional tennis player. I've never made it that far, but maybe you live vicariously through your characters in some ways.
Yes, I think so. So when you're not playing tennis and writing books, do you have anything else you like to spend your time doing?
Well, I teach, so that's I'm a teacher at the college, community college level here in the United States, and I do that, and I play tennis. What else? I'd like to travel, different places. I was just in Puerto Rico recently. When things opened up here, one of the first places I went to was Puerto Rico, and also I travel around the United States a lot. I just hop in my car and I'd like to drive road trips, and that's where I see things.
Yeah, that sounds fun. So after this book, have you got any more planned in the works?
Yeah. I'm working on something, but it's not taken off as this book. Like I want to say that I sat down and it wrote itself in a way. So the things were just there, and I just sat down in front of the computer for 3 hours for 8 months, like literally every day, and it was just easy. Okay. Now I'm writing something else, and it's not as easy. It's not coming out as easily. So I don't know if I'm gonna. My expectations are that from now on, every book should be written like that. And I had forgotten that it's actually a lot of toil, and hard harder work. So we'll see. We'll see. I got a little novella in Spanish that I'm working on, but I got a couple other ideas. So I don't know yet. I'd like to do some reporting at some point, like going somewhere, just kind of, some like, I don't know, like investigative or something like that. I went to journalism school, so I got a little bit of a reporting background.
That sounds like fun. I'd love to do that as well, I think. Any excuse to travel the world.
Exactly. Any excuse just to get out there, right, and talk to people.
Well, the book is called Reggaetón Cruise, and I know it's on Amazon because that's where I got it, but where else is it?
It's mainly on Amazon right now. It's in bookstores. So some bookstores, I think hopefully, if you order it on Barnes & Noble or something, they should have it, right? And hopefully it's not in any used bookstores yet, because that's the thing. As a writer, sometimes you go into a used bookstore and you see your book there. It's like, I sold my book, right? So I hope it's not there yet, but maybe that's also a good thing, because that means enough people read it, so they're like it's circulating.
Unless they've folded the first or second page, then that's not a good sign.
That's not a good. Well, you know what? I can tell you. Want to hear a story? That's kind of dramatic. Okay. So I guess it's a fan letter from somebody in Mexico who'd read my book in Spanish, right? My second book, 80 Miles Per Hour, which is a book poems in Spanish. He said, I really loved your book. Just saying the good, nice things about the book. And I'm like, I thought it was only published here in the United States. You're in Mexico. How did you get my book? And he said, well, I went to visit my friend and she had a stack of books that she was going to donate or throw away or whatever. And I saw this book that it caught my eye, and I picked it up and I took it home and I read it and I really liked it. Wow. And then he said, oh, it even has a, how do you call it when you write somebody's name and sign it? It has a autograph book with and it's like, and I'm like, can you send me a picture? And he sends me a picture, and this is a dramatic picture. And I gave it to a friend of mine, and he had passed away due to COVID, and so his books were sold, and the book had traveled to Mexico somehow. And my name signing it to him saying like, hey man, hope you like this book, was there. Wow. And here's to round it up. My friend who passed away had been a poet. And the guy who got my book was also a poet. So I told him, it's in the right hands. So I just want to tell you that story, how books travel and all of that.
Yeah, that's quite incredible.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for joining us here on the show this afternoon. It's been great having you here, or this morning even, whatever time it is for you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Toby. It's been so great. And thank you for reading the book. And I just want to ask people in general, if you've read it, review it. That's what really keeps the momentum going. And we're almost there in terms of achieving the number of reviews that we want to get. So thank you so much for having me.
Yes, that's what I had to do. I've got to review it. I'm going to do that right now.
I would appreciate it. And thanks for having me and all of our friends who are listening to us.